welcome everybody my name is Darrell Scott. I'm with the Biological Systems Engineering Department, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the research in the labs that we have here on campus and off campus. And so we have a couple of guest students to share some of the research that they're doing, and I'm going to attempt to set it up. We have one or two videos that I'll probably show depending on timing as well. And then I'm going to direct you to some resources to look at. And so if you haven't already, if you're interested, there's a Twitter account and Instagram account to follow. Our website is bse.vt.edu. And if you have questions, definitely come to you can send stuff to me, dscott@vt.edu. You can send stuff to Ms. Baker, our undergraduate advisor, at beth5253@vt.edu. And so reach out as you have questions about our program. So what we do here in our program, BSE is pretty unique within engineering in that we connect engineering and biology together to solve problems that help us in a sustainable way. And so one of our taglines that we think about is we do what we love and we're trying to create a better world. Those of you, if you end up taking a green engineering course from me, one of the things I talk a lot about is sustainability and this concept of a donut. And so in BSE, we're trying to figure out, when you think about a donut, the middle of the donut is really sweet. That's what you want to eat. You don't want to be in the middle because you're not going to get any donut. You don't want to be in the outside. When you think about sustainability, the outside of the donut is where the planet Earth, where there's a lot of environmental problems, a lot of stressors, climate change, pollution. And we handle, when we think about a lot of those. The inside of the donut ends up being those social shortfalls, and equity issues and human health issues. And so BSE is kind of cool because it encapsulates and solves problems around the concept of sustainability in the donut. So here's just some pictures of different people in our program working. And so here's an undergraduate student, graduate student, that over the course of the pandemic, they worked with some faculty members and developed some really cool hands-on tools for kids in classrooms. So these are kids that are second and third graders. And so it was a pretty neat project that our undergraduate students had an opportunity to think about how you apply principles within engineering and then sharing that excitement that they have to solve problems. So the examples, they learned about irrigation. Here are some of our undergraduate students monitoring streams out in what's called the Stream Lab, and I'll show you a little bit that in a minute. And this is a picture of Dr. Zhang, who is a really well-known vaccine researcher here in our program. So I'm pretty excited about what we do here. We have a lot of cool people that we work with in our BSE community that are doing some really cool things. And so that's what we're going to try to share with you today. There are a lot of opportunities to get involved in research outside the classroom. And with that, we have lots of hands-on experiences where students have the opportunity to work alongside graduate students, other undergraduate students, scientists, and faculty to solve problems. We have lots of state-of-the-art tools that are pretty cool, and we'll kind of show you a little bit about that stuff. And ultimately, we contribute to real-world problems, which is something that probably brings a lot of us to this discipline. So there are lots of indoor and outdoor labs that we could talk about. And so there's listing of different videos that I could show you. If you were on campus, we would walk through some of our facilities. Obviously, we're not on campus and we're in the Zoom world, and it is what it is. And so if you send me, if you're interested in getting a link to these sites, send me an email and I'll send you a location of where you can look at all these videos with respect to the different research that's going on across our department. So we're going to start off looking at a little bit of some of the outdoor labs in our program. And this is a picture of an undergraduate student and a graduate student working. And then here's a picture of us on the New River here, right outside of Blacksburg. So one of the labs that we do a lot of work on, that's a mile from campus, it's called the Stream Lab. It's a pretty cool place in that we're able to do a lot of research and teaching right here on campus, or really close to campus. There are some great YouTube videos with the whole Streamlab channel. If you look up Streamlab Virginia Tech, you'll find them. And this is from a drone footage. Stream restoration is something that we think a lot about in our program, and there's a lot of research that goes on, as well as job opportunities. And so we'll learn a little bit about that from Dr. Thompson in a video that we'll look at. This is a video of Dr. Hessian talking about some drone work that he does in his group, in the research group. And so we'll listen to him for about maybe 30 seconds.
Today we're flying a drone with a laser scanner on it. It's a LiDAR system. We're at Catawba Sustainability Center. In this case, we're actually mapping the upland area where they just did some agroforestry plantings at Catawba. And the laser scanner we have on here will give us really very high resolution topographic information. So we'll be able to map this entire field, and we're going to map.
All right, so I'm not going to play the whole video because you can look up the link. And so I will also, if you send me an email and you want to see, I'll share all these links via email because I think it'll be easier to do it that way. We have a lot of research that goes on with respect to water quality. We all know that drinking water is something that is fundamental to us as humans. And so I'm going to share this video, which is of Dr. Thompson talking about some of her work, and it encapsulates the concept of the importance of water within the environment.
I can live a very long time without getting in an airplane or even a car and still have a happy life. But you can only live about 2 or 3 days without a good water supply. And so water is critical for life. And the most easiest to reach supply of fresh water is in our streams and lakes. And so it's really critical that we keep that water clean. And so the actual stream ecosystem plays a big role in cleaning the water and keeping the streams clean and free from pollution. So this is stream restoration. It's a graduate level course on how to rebuild stream ecosystems. Today they're doing a visual assessment of the stream channel. This is preliminary information that we gather before we do a stream restoration design to assess what are the underlying problems that the stream is experiencing, hint at some of the causes, so that we know then, moving forward, what we need to address.
So this video is taken this past fall out at the Stream Lab, and within undergraduate courses, you'll have an opportunity to actually visit the Stream Lab and participate there, but as well as potentially getting involved in research. And so with that, I'm going to turn the program over for a couple of minutes. Natty is someone that I work with. He's a junior in our program. He's going to tell you about the project that he's been involved in over the last year.
So hi everyone, my name is Natty Abrams. As Dr. Scott mentioned, I'm a junior in BSc, and last January, I got involved in a program that we call the Hydrologic Analysis Research Program, or HARP. And kind of to give a brief summary of the group, we're 5 undergraduate students, and we work with 2 doctors in BSc, Dr. Scott and Dr. Shortridge. And then we also work with 2 watershed modelers and water supply modelers from the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality. And so it's a really cool group and a really cool mix of people. And the goal of the program is, it's a really broad goal. Pretty much we use different computer coding softwares and statistical modeling softwares to analyze different water quantity issues around the state. And so over the past year, or I guess a year and a half almost at this point, we've worked on tons of different sort of projects. Initially we worked on providing what we called heat maps, so to show periods of high intensity for water withdrawals. And then what we spent last fall doing for most of the fall was developing a code to take in data about fish populations and how reduction in stream and river flows cause reductions in fish populations. And so we've gotten a really cool mix of different projects. And what I really love about the program is I'm really interested in watersheds and streams and rivers. And this has been a totally new look into those sort of systems. So I've gotten a totally new experience of working with these environmental systems over the computer. And I think it's provided some really, really valuable skills. I got involved in BSE because I was interested in watersheds and I was interested in water. And it's been a really cool experience to work with these systems in a way that I didn't know was even possible, or didn't intend on working with them before coming into tech. And I think that's one of the true values or valuable aspects of research at tech, is you get to work on problems that you didn't even know existed or didn't even think of. And so one of the coolest things that I've really valued over the last couple weeks is we're currently working on a problem where we pretty much started this semester with just a general idea of a problem. We wanted to analyze the cumulative impacts of different water quality metrics over an entire river. So the way Dr. Scott describes it is you get in a canoe and see how those metrics change as you move down a river. And what we've done is, as a group, completely developed the project. So we didn't really have any idea of what the project would look like. We sort of just started, and the group has been a lot about developing what things are going to even look like. And so we've worked for the last couple months continually iterating on a design, iterating on what types of products, what types of graphs we want to make, how we want it to look. And what I'm going to do now is show you one of the things we're working on, or one of the things more specifically that I'm working on, which is we're actually making a virtual app so that people who are trying to understand how water flows change across a river system can compare different watershed model runs and all sorts of stuff. And I'm not going to go into the super specifics because, as you can see, it's still in development. But I want to just impress upon the cool thing that I've learned from this program, which is how cool it is to actually be a part of a group working on something that you didn't even have a conception of before it started. And that's what I've really gained out of this program, is the value of working in a group scenario, working with different types of stakeholders, and working creatively, which is, I think, such an important part of engineering and something I really value about our major. And so, yeah, if anyone has any questions or any comments, please let me know.
We're going to talk about some other labs that we have and other groups on campus or within BSE. So I'm going to highlight the biopolymer lab in Hobby. And Mason's going to talk about a lab that he's been working in over this last year. We also have Dr. Zhang's lab that I mentioned earlier that does a lot of vaccine work. We have a new food engineer that's doing some really cool sensor work. And so there's a lot to show you, but I'm only going to show you one video because we're all kind of too many videos, and you can see that if you ask me for the link. So let me find the video that I want to share. So this is Dr. Barone. So when we watch this, listen to the words, and he's going to show you some cool things. The video itself's a little bit shaky.
So welcome to the Biopolymers and Bioinspiration Laboratory. I'm Justin Barone, and in this lab what we're studying are how we can take biopolymers, which are things like gelatin and wheat gluten, and we can use them in new applications for materials and for food. And then what we also do is take cues from nature in places where nature does amazing things and try to build that functionality into synthetic systems. And so here what you're looking at is some of the equipment we use in our lab. Here you've got a biopolymer sample right here. This is gelatin mixed with sugar. So you get something that's really nice and soft and squishy, like this, right? Also tastes good. And so that's some of the biopolymer stuff we're working on. Here what you're looking at is some of the bioinspiration stuff we're working on. So you see what we have here are kind of systems that like to curl up on themselves. And so this is how things like pine cones open, and how plant tendrils like cucumber tendrils will grow towards light. And so what we've done is we've taken that functionality out of the plant and built it into a synthetic system that can bend and twist around itself just like the plants do. And then what we're doing over here is some more testing on some of these biopolymer samples.
So Dr. Brown is a good example of someone, and I like the reason I chose that video is because he used the words taking nature's cues and using biology and engineering together, which is a lot of encapsulates what BSE does, which is pretty cool. So with that said, we're going to switch over to Mason. Mason's going to talk about his experience as doing some undergrad research. And I'm going to let Mason, you take control.
Hey everyone, I'm Mason. I'm a sophomore in BSE, and I've been working in the plant synthetic biology lab for a few months now. And what I think is really interesting about plant biology is that every little plant cell is its own little biofactory for a bunch of different compounds, and we can utilize them to produce a whole bunch of things. And that's something that we've been working on quite a bit in Dr. Wright's lab. So as you can see, here's the lab. What's really cool about research is that I'm an undergraduate working with graduates and even postdoctoral people, and we're all just on a level playing field in some senses, which is really cool for me at least. And so the goal of the lab here is we're utilizing these things called biosensors. Essentially what they do is they find some compound and they bind to them. And we can track the production of these compounds in each plant. For example, this is the chemical structure for melatonin. You might know it from different pills, different other pharmaceuticals. Essentially, it controls sleep and circadian rhythm in humans. And how it's currently created is with a bunch of different chemicals and reagents. However, we're trying to develop a new method of creating it with just different organisms. So melatonin, it's a hormone. And we found this similar hormone called auxin, which promotes growth in plants. And what we're doing is we're genetically engineering these auxin receptors to instead track the melatonin production of a plant. And from there, we can see, oh, this plant produces a lot of melatonin. Let's keep that one and breed it. So then we can develop this new strain of plant that produces tons and tons of melatonin. And eventually it'll be at a production scale, and we won't need all the different synthetic reagents and chemicals. So here's how we achieve that. Obviously, there are so many steps to plant biology and all the genetic coding and all of that. I can briefly sum it up with this picture. So we start out by designing the construct on the computer. From there, we synthesize it with a bunch of different DNA fragments that we have laying around. We put them all together through a construction process called Gibson assembly. Once it's all into one strand of DNA, we then clone it, which is done by putting it in a organism that replicates really fast. You might know what E. coli is, but essentially it's this tiny bacteria, and they reproduce very quickly. So it creates tons and tons of replications of this DNA that we want. We then isolate it by killing off all the E. coli that didn't take up this DNA, and then we transplant it into a yeast cell, which we can then use to get the output that we want. So all of this, all these processes, they take a lot of lab aptitude, and they take a lot of time. Some of the processes take many days to do. So my work as an undergraduate has been using this robot to automate them. So for a few months now, I've been using this language called Python. And essentially, it's a very basic coding language, but we can use it to control this cool little robot that we have in the lab. So I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but this little arm, it goes back and forth, and it can pipette different liquids back and forth. You can put it in the thermocycler, which is something that changes the temperature of the liquid really quickly. You can do a lot of different things. And essentially, this block of code here is I'm trying to make it so that a researcher can just put all the different enzymes and all the liquids, place it in there, start the robot, and walk away. And they can go and do more like cerebral activities, like analyzing data or setting up more experiments. So in the future, all the processes will be automated, and there'll be little use for lab scale. And they can focus more on doing more human things. You know? And I think that's really interesting, and that's something that I'm super passionate about. So in conclusion, some of the benefits that I've picked up from doing research at Tech is, one, it's a great resume builder. I've gotten interviews solely because I've done research on plant biology and with automation. Two, as I said earlier, you meet new people. I would have never talked to graduates or postdoctoral candidates without the research. And they're really cool people, and they have a lot to teach you. Third, I got to meet a lot of professors like Dr. Wright and a few of his peers. And my favorite thing is that you get to do real science. It's not a preset procedure. There's no correct answer. There's no answer key in the back of the textbook. You are doing something that probably hasn't been done ever before, which is really exciting for me, at least. And that hits my last point. It's super fun. Yeah, I think it'd be a really good opportunity if you ever get into that.
Awesome. Thanks, Mason. So really cool to see like that difference in scales, but still connecting the dots in terms of doing stuff that's fun, making a difference, connecting engineering and biology. And so now's the time to ask questions. I am going to share this part of my screen just to give you email addresses again and social media stuff. And so again, you can contact me, you can contact Ms. Baker, our advisor, and then at BSc_VT or VT_BSc, you'll get to see some of the cool stuff that students, grad students, faculty, or overall BSc community kind of what's going on, which is a lot of stuff. So it's kind of fun. So let's see. So our first question is from Ella. Ella's asking, I may have missed this, but when can you start research?
You can start as your first semester of your freshman year. There's a bunch of people, or I think there's 3 freshmen in Dr. Wright's lab at least. All it really takes to start is like a willingness to learn more about the subject. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I started research, I guess, my second semester as a sophomore, but I think my freshman year, maybe Miss Baker told us this, that I think like over 50% of BSc undergrads get involved in research at some point. And I think partly it's because there's so many labs and so many professors doing really cool stuff. Like there's a different lab for pretty much every sector of our major, and there's definitely something that will pique your interest. And so we have a really cool page on the BSc website with all the facilities and all the labs laid out. And I would recommend just looking at that and seeing what piques your interest, because that's what I did. I looked through all the labs and saw what sounded cool to me. So
awesome.
Yeah.
And then Ella, we didn't introduce you in the beginning, but maybe you could tell the group what you're doing and part of the dean's team. And I'm not sure what undergrad research you've been involved in.
Oh, yeah, no problem. So hello. Also, apologies if you hear a beep. My smoke detector is doing a thing today, but bear with me. Yep, there it is. My name is Ella Moore, and I am a junior in BSc on the biotechnology path. And I'm on the dean's team, and we are a part of the College of Engineering, and specifically engineering education and admissions. So we're the ones who host Engineering Open House and all of the awesome presentations you've seen all week. So we're really on the prospective student side. So I've been doing this for a few years now. And I actually did research my freshman year in environmental and traffic engineering, which, funny enough, but I loved it, doing like environmental modeling with different air pollution and creating it into an app and things like that. But that was in the civil engineering department. So I also want to point out that this is just for BSc, and we have a lot of incredible labs here in the department, but by no means are you limited to research in your own department. If you go campus-wide, I mean, the opportunities are truly endless in terms of what you may want to work on. So it's something I can't recommend enough. Clearly from both of their experiences too, it's something you're really passionate about and can definitely learn so much outside of the classroom. So would highly recommend wherever you end up to get involved in undergraduate research of some kind.
That's an awesome plug. Yeah. So, and I think what it takes, right, is the ability to, as a student, sometimes it can be really intimidating talking to your professors, right, and reaching out. If you put yourself out there and get a little bit vulnerable and get over that hump, there are doors that are opened up to you. And I get really excited when students come and ask me questions, and they are interested in learning about what makes me tick, and be excited about what I'm learning. And so if you can do that as a student as you move forward, there are lots of opportunities, for sure. Even though Virginia Tech is so big, our BSc is pretty small. It's a nice place to be able to meet your professors, and also in other classes that you can take across campus. So.
Because I did go back and forth on this, and it's funny because I'm actually now on the biotechnology path. I'm working for a pharmaceutical company this summer, but for me, I chose BSc over civil and environmental because I was more interested in the actual biology side of things. BSc is much more science focused than civil. And what really helped me is Virginia Tech has this awesome webpage called Explore Engineering. If you literally just Google Explore Engineering VT, it has a breakdown of all of the 14 majors that we offer within the College of Engineering in terms of related coursework, minors, job paths, research areas, you name it. And you delve into it a lot your freshman year with information sessions and things like that. But for me, it really came down to that I was more interested in the science side of things than like the whole scale structural side of things in terms of like land management and water resources and like water treatment, sewage, things like that, which is definitely more on the civil side of things. But you will notice with BSc, there is like quite a bit of overlap with a few departments depending on what you choose. Like I know for the biotechnology processing side, there's a ton of overlap with both chemical engineering and biomedical engineering. And then obviously on the environmental health side, the civil and environmental engineering department. And my answer or the differences between all of those is it really does come back to that this is like a biology focus. And the science leads like informs where we go from there versus the other departments where it kind of goes the other way around. I hope that wasn't too confusing. I hope that made sense. But for me personally, it was about the fact that I was most interested in the biology.
Natty or Mason, do either of you have just a suggestion? Looks like Natty unmuted. When you're entering school, your freshman year or something.
I guess this sort of really applies. I was going to add to the last question too, and I think a really good practice is when I was trying, like I came into tech thinking I was probably going to do civil. I didn't really know what BSc was, and then one thing I did was, well, if you're a freshman engineering student, you'll be in the general engineering major, and as part of that, you go to I think at least 4 engineering info sessions. And I went to the BSc one, and I really liked what they were talking about, and you know everything they were saying was what was interesting to me about engineering, which was the cross discipline information. And then the thing that I think really sealed it for me was I looked at all the classes I'd be taking, and now that's not always a perfect indicator of what the class is going to be about, but you know when you look at the classes and you see stuff that's interesting to you, then that's in my opinion a good measure of you know, if you're going to be interested in learning about that sort of stuff. And then when I saw that, I chose BSc. And if I had some advice on, I feel like I have so much advice, but I would really say that, and you're going to hear this from a million people, but there truly is so much here at Tech beyond classes. And if you're just going to class, I feel like you're missing out on a huge wealth of experience that you can get. And even if you're not a tech or not in BSc, I think that's something that holds true across the college experience. Is colleges are, and especially tech, are a great source of knowledge and a great source of people who are doing really cool cutting edge stuff and getting involved in extracurricular organizations. I'm doing stuff with the rec sports department too, which is another thing I do. And so getting that experience in all sorts of different types of fields is really cool to me. And I think that's my advice: is try to get involved in stuff that sounds cool, that's outside of your classes, because it'll really enrich your experience.
They asked when you need to choose a path for BSc. And that you don't have to like choose a path. You can swap pretty much. It may delay like your graduation by 1 semester or 2, but you don't choose a path. You just choose the classes that will fulfill that. I don't know. Maybe I didn't put that correctly, but yeah, it's not like a set in stone. I'm doing this. You can do a little bit of some things, but eventually you'll want to decide. My advice, I guess, is pretty similar to Natty's. It's just find a group of people that you bond with and just go for it, because engineering is pretty hard, and it's even harder alone. Just like, even if they're not engineers, but just find your group and you can bounce ideas off them. Ask them, "Oh, what was that professor like?" And just gain as much information as you can, because it can get a little difficult at times.
Yeah, so don't be bashful and ask questions, right? And so, just to expand on choosing a path in BSE, and there's some flexibility for sure, but by the end of your sophomore year, you kind of want to know what classes you're going to be taking, and so that you can graduate within 4 years. And that's even if you do. There is an opportunity to do study abroad within that 4 year window. We also have a lot of students that are starting to do more co-ops and valuing that experience. And so Natty has a colleague, Miriam, who was in the HARP group, who's doing a co-op right now in Wisconsin. And so there are those opportunities that are also are highly valued. So, and then Ella, do you have any other parting words or advice?
My biggest piece of advice with both the like college admissions process and as well as like when you get here is just really keep an open mind. What you want changes so much and so often. I mean, I am still changing my mind about things every single day. So I think it's really, really important that you just keep an open mind to going to different major sessions like you're doing now today and learning more and um, pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. I've made like some of my best friends from doing things that I never would have normally done. Or um, like my internship I'm doing this summer, like going up to a booth that I was terrified to talk to at Engineering Expo, which is our career fair. Whatever it is, just finding ways to keep an open mind and try new things is ultimately how you're going to get the most out of your experience. And tech honestly could not be a better place for trying new things with so much to offer. So that would be my biggest piece of advice for sure.
I appreciate everybody joining us today. There's a lot more to check out across the open house. Definitely come and visit us in BSE in the fall if you end up coming to Virginia Tech. We'd love to show you around. If you want to get in touch with Miss Baker or I, please do. We're happy to answer questions. And I can direct you to either of us can direct you to different resources if you want to watch more videos. I can tell you we're all excited about the fall for sure. So with that said, I wish you all a good afternoon, and thank you again, panelists, and thank you, Ella, for being on the Dean's team. Bye, everybody.